Greetings, everyone. Greetings, greetings. I am Angela, one of the co-founders of Disruptor DAO. Welcome back to our new season of Futurist Frontiers, where we are chatting with builders, creators, developers in the space of the future. And today we are super excited to have Elias with us from Poppy. A little bit about Disruptor DAO. We are disrupting the wealth gap and looking to build opportunities and share resources to advance wealth building opportunities through disruptive technology. And so we thank you all for joining us today. And again, are super excited to have with us Elias from Poppy, one of the leading, if not the leading, real world asset real estate platform in this world of blockchain and digital assets. And so we're going to hear all about it. I want to bring Elias up. Elias is a blockchain and real estate expert dedicated to transforming how properties are bought, sold, and owned through the power of tokenization and artificial intelligence. With a strong track record in real world assets tokenization, he has led groundbreaking initiatives, most notably the tokenization of Hawaii's first real estate assets sold on chain and the facilitation of the world's first double collateralized Bitcoin backed real estate loan. So I know Elias is going to share all about that and what that means. Elias's mission is to bridge the gap between traditional real estate and Web3 infrastructures by creating secure, transparent, and efficient systems that empower agents, investors, and property owners alike. At Proppy, he is driving this mission forward with AI-powered tools and blockchain-based solutions that bring the entire real estate process online, from enabling 24/7 global property transactions to advancing the digitization of property rights. Elias is committed to redefining what is possible for this industry. And so super grateful and excited to have you with us, Elias. We know that you're traveling and abroad, so thankful for sharing this time with us. So please, we'd love to hear more about you, more about Poppy, and more about the future in this space. Welcome.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you. That was quite the introduction. I mean, how am I going to follow up that introduction? I mean, wow, I'm gonna have to just snip that little introduction and just tag that with everywhere I go from now on. So, or I might just have to bring you as my hype person, an intro person.
Sure, sure,
Um,
sure.
no, but thank you so much for having me on and letting me come and just talk about, just myself and what I'm passionate about and what Proppy is doing. And I mean, we're doing some really exciting things as of late. I mean, I'm literally right now, you're right, I am traveling with the team. We're doing some team building. I'm in Zosopol, Bulgaria on the seaside with the engineering team and some of the advisors and everything. And it's just been absolutely amazing getting to see all the new and exciting things that we're going to be implementing into the product. We've been continuously making some more world firsts in the realm of not just blockchain and cryptocurrency, but also with artificial intelligence. So there's some exciting things that we've been able to accomplish, some more world firsts. I can't really say much more beyond that, but we are going to be making some fun and exciting press releases here for the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that because it's going to be literally game changing. And also, we're getting more into kind of what the world post-regulated world looks like in terms of blockchain, cryptocurrency, and AI and real estate, right? So that's really kind of been our focus for the past several months is really digging in and being a part of those high level conversations on Capitol Hill and the White House As we've seen as of late, now we see Fannie and Freddie are are being directed to acknowledge Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency as kinds of collateral for mortgages. And as you had stated in the introduction, back in early part of the year, January, February, we did the world's first double collateralized Bitcoin backed loan. So I mean, we're pioneering these things, and the industry is seeing that there's not just an appetite, but a demand for these things. And there are so many underserved cryptocurrency clients out there that A, they don't know how to utilize their crypto, but then B, they don't want to spend the crypto, and that's fine. They want to use it as collateral. Because really and truly, I mean, Bitcoin is pristine capital when it comes to as an asset, really, and the real estate market is really starting to see a resurgence and a boom. And we're really seeing, more and more people are starting to default less and less and less on residential properties. I can't really speak so much to commercial, but at least in the world of residential, we're seeing a lot more people are staying in their homes for longer, and that also kind of has a correlation with mortgage rates and whatnot. So it's kind of interesting to see what's going to happen there. So I think, for as far as like property goes, I think the end game is to have a full loop, full full loop circle system to where it's like truly a one-stop shop for that real estate transaction, right? To where a consumer with a click of a button can come and make a real estate purchase, buy, sell, and trade just as they would as normal cryptocurrency. And we're really trying to democratize the access to these things for the consumer. And one of the ways that we've really done that and been successful at doing that is through our prop tech, right? And our Web3 prop tech is powered by AI. That's really what our licensed title and escrow agency has been using for the past several years to really bring these property rates on chain, create immutable records of the transaction to really help mitigate and stop title fraud and even wire fraud and mortgage fraud, in its tracks. And, we're starting to kind of see like we're at this inflection point of the technology of, blockchain and AI starting to converge to where it's just basically making it more and more simple for the real estate transaction, to come on chain, and then to just be as quick as possible. So, for example, I think about like a month or so ago, we had a transaction open on the platform, and then 4 minutes later, we received earnest money deposit on a weekend. And that's just absolutely unheard of in the industry. Usually, when you go under contract for a property, it's at least 48 hours before that title agency is receiving funds for earnest money deposit. So we're able to completely cut these things, the time, not just in half, but literally down to the minutes, which is super exciting. So I mean, it's super exciting as well. Like some other things that we're currently working on, is we're seeing more of a demand for developers, even on like pre-construction. So everybody's starting to really now see and truly understand the value proposition of tokenizing, purchase agreements, tokenizing titles, just tokenizing property rights in general, because it makes them that much more portable. It enhances liquidity behind it, So that's really also another focus too, is the amount of crypto buyers that we're really starting to see come, and then also being able to borrow and collateralize that crypto to actually buy their properties. So crypto-backed mortgages. So it's really exciting. So, but I'll kind of rambled on for a minute, so I'll leave it there and kind of pass the mic back off to you.
No, awesome. And you touched on so many things that we definitely want to dive deeper into. And I also want to let our audience know, please, this is the AMA, please type your questions in the chat that you might have for Elias. I would like to back up just a little bit, Elias, and would love for you to share your story, how you got into the space. One of the things that we found so to be just fascinating and inspiring is around the opportunities that exist for people to transfer their skills, from the traditional business into the Web3 space. And so could you give a lens into, kind of that world of how you got into this Web3 space and working with Proppy, kind of what you see for the future of workforce and business development in that way? And then we definitely want to get into a conversation of like, okay, how does it actually work? Could you walk us through the steps of how do we, work with mental health, a home in the blockchain? Like, what does it actually mean? What does that look like for a potential buyer, and what's the benefits of doing this on the blockchain versus traditional methods? But we'd love to hear your story first.
Oh yeah, definitely. You threw a lot at me, but I've got it on my plate. I'm going to compartmentalize it and kind
I
of
know you
break
can
it
handle
down
it.
bit by bit. Oh yeah. Yeah. So to kind of just address the first question you threw at me. So my background has really been in real estate and tech for the better part of a decade and a half, more or less. So I come from in real estate. I was in the foreclosure side of things and creative financing, and you know when property's been around really since 2017, and back between 2017, 2018, 2019, I kind of they popped up on my radar. And then when they did the world's first real estate NFT on-chain sell in the Ukraine, in Kiev, it really just kind of like gave me that aha moment of wow, this technology, this is the use case for blockchain technology, is the tokenization of real world assets, mainly real estate, because real estate is by far and large the largest illiquid asset class in the world globally. Almost I think it's like $30 trillion of just
Mhm.
illiquidity. And there's all these different pain points that Proppy had resolved just in one just in one fell swoop. And I knew I just wanted to be a part of that mission. And I kind of followed their journey for a little bit, and then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I didn't get I was lucky enough to not get furloughed, but I kind of went back to the company I was working for. I was like, hey, look, like the blockchain technology, that's the future. That's the infrastructure that everybody's going to be using. Tokenization is going to be the final frontier, so to speak. And they just like, it's on our radar, but it's not a priority. So, no. So I was like, all right, well, I mean, it's my priority. So I'm gonna go. I'm getting on the train. I'm not gonna let it leave me. So the rest is history. I came on board, and it was the best thing ever. It's absolutely amazing getting to come on board and getting to just be a part of just the company culture and be a part of the team, and even just beyond that. I mean, getting to see how the actual product and the platform, really operates, getting
Mhm.
to really see, how life changing it is for some people, because there are some buyers, and even sellers, that we've had, even real estate agents that, we've dealt with, that have closed through our title and escrow agency. And, they're like, Elias, I can't tell you, like I've unfortunately been a victim of, somebody hacked my email and gave out fraudulent wiring instructions. And I had a client that lost $50,000 for earnest money, and their dream home was just gone because the seller wasn't going to wait for them. Or how another agent, was telling me a story of one of their clients had became a victim of title fraud, and to see our solution, our products, like just completely stop these things in its track. That's, I mean, in Florida, especially, wire fraud is a it's nationwide. It's a multi-billion-dollar a year problem, but specifically in Florida,
Mhm.
we're talking about millions of dollars annually, which is just sad. I think in like 2023 alone, if I recall correctly, like $30 million in wire fraud for real estate alone in Florida. I'm
Wow.
not really too sure of that figure, but it's just kind of a guesstimation. So for a consumer to be able to literally, whether it's a real estate agent or a buyer, to take their contract and literally click, drag, and drop that contract into our platform, and then our AI goes through and reads that whole contract and then timelines it out. It just automates the process away for the consumer, and saves them time and just really gives them that peace of mind that they really look for, because
Mhm.
these agents, this is their livelihoods, so if something happens that damages their reputation, it's very hard to come back from that,
Mhm.
and then when you really look at the numbers of, I think something like the top producing um, agents are account for like, I think it's like 10% of the agents sell 90% of the inventory, which is pretty
Mhm.
crazy. Then when you even look at, like, get more granular with the statistics, it's even crazier. So for somebody that gets into real estate and is successful, they're a unicorn. So that's why we
Mhm.
really care about making sure that the real estate agent has a safe place to be able to transact their real estate transactions through our platform, and then also it's giving their clients and just buyers in general and sellers just a global platform to be able to attract global interest, because we have the ability to do crypto. Where you don't have to be in the United States to be able to buy or sell real estate through property, which is absolutely amazing. You know, um, so I think I touched on all the points. I think you
Yes.
would ask me.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and we had some questions come through the chat. And also just want to point out, Eliza, I think there's maybe a bit of background noise. Um, but I know you're moving, so if you could speak into the mic more, I
Oh
think
yeah.
that
Sorry.
hear you a bit better.
Can you hear me a little bit better
Yeah,
now? I'm sorry. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. So I think the overall kind of question is, what does the process look like? We have a few questions from the chat. I'm just going to read, and they kind of centered around. I'm going to read them because you might can answer them in your
Yeah.
question and in your answer. What does the process look like to mint your title on the blockchain, and for heightened security? And you talked about how property allows for heightened security and protection of your titles and such. So would love to know what that process looks like. And then the other questions were, how do people keep their crypto assets secure while using them as collateral? And you mentioned that Bitcoin was used for real estate collateral. Are there other assets or other digital assets, current cryptocurrencies that are accepted by the real estate industry to use to collateralize for properties?
Okay. Yeah. So let me just address the first point. The process. So the process is very simple. It's very easy. It's literally, you're going to copykeys.com. So if you're just a consumer and you're wanting to take advantage of just minting your title, for example, right? You would go to copykeys.com, and literally in the upper right hand side, literally click mint address, connect your wallets, and just go through the flows. It's something that literally takes maybe 5 minutes to do, and then what our team is doing on the back end is they're further verifying the actual ownership of the title for that consumer, and then we're recording that verified ownership on chain. So that way, that owner has a verified title. So that way, if and then they can take that as well and record that at the county recorder's court alongside the actual recorded deed, is because of the way that we're doing it, and it points back to the immutable record on chain. So it's a very simple, straightforward process. Most of the folks that have got it done, it's been seamless for them, super quick, and they're super happy that they have that extra layer of added protection on chain, which is something just absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
To your second point and question, so the assets. that we do accept are, Bitcoin, and then others that are on Ethereum mainnet, right? So anything that is, Ethereum, layer one, or any others that are like like built on top of Ethereum, like the different L2s, right? So
Mm-hmm.
anything that's basically, tradable on Coinbase, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then to answer the third point of question that you're putting to me, so everything that we do is going to be done pragmatically by smart contract. So those smart contracts are putting the ownership, putting everything think of when you go into like a normal real estate transaction, for your listeners, right? So in a real estate transaction, you are bound by a black and white handwritten contract.
Mm-hmm.
So smart contracts, literally, it's exactly how it sounds. Smart contracts. They're computer code that dictate terms and conditions of an agreement between two parties. If you look at it very simply put like that, okay. So these these smart contracts, are bound by those terms. So they execute automatically. So say if somebody collateralizes their property, and if they default, for example, there are different kinds of triggers that are set in place for um, basically transferring ownership away, in light of like default or what have you, So all of these things are done, and it's also since it's all on chain, all of these smart contracts, the transactions, everything are transparent. They're secure. They're immutable. So there's nothing that, let me go hunt down this contract that's on this server. So no, it's on chain. It's there, plain as day, auditable.
Mm-hmm.
24/7, 365 accountability is really what is occurring here. So
Mm-hmm. Okay, so kind of follow up to that is, so when selling the property down the line, what happens in the blockchain? But what also comes to mind too is if we want to, transfer the home to a loved one or something like that, how does that work with transfer of ownership? Um,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
So two
Oh,
kind
and
of two
also
different.
also real quick, Elias, sorry to cut you off. We got some message in the chat. It is a bit challenging to hear because of the background noise where you are. So I don't know if you're able to. I know you're moving around though, so if there's another space, but wherever you are now though is a bit more quiet. So I don't know what happened, or maybe
Okay,
the
okay.
background noise just settled. Yeah,
It's settled.
that's
Sorry,
good. Just good where
I
you are.
do I do I do I do I do
Okay.
I do greatly apologize for that. Like I said, I had plans to be in front of the computer for your listeners to be face to face, but the team was wanting to do a little bit of team building. We're hard at work, about to make some major announcements, which is very exciting.
Okay. We're super
But
excited
to
to hear
Oh
it.
yeah,
So go ahead.
trust me. I would love to drop those tidbits and that alpha right here and now. But I'm sure if I did, I would probably no longer be with
No,
Proppy.
no, no. No, we're
But
definitely going to have you
yeah,
back and looking forward to continue to
oh
connect
yeah.
with Poppy. So yeah,
But
for sure. We'll keep our eyes
but no,
open.
to answer the question really quick. So for transfer of ownership, it's very quick. It's very simple. So once the property rights have been tokenized, they're on chain. So the whole value proposition is now they can be transferred wallet to wallet. So the way right now that this is accomplished, right? So even if it's Proppy or if it's another business that's doing it's all pretty much the same. The property rights are being conveyed to a vehicle, also known as like a special purpose vehicle, which is just a legal structure that's set up like like a revocable trust or a single member LLC. So once those property rights are conveyed to that vehicle, an NFT is minted that represents ownership of that actual vehicle. So that way, sorry, the background sound's kind of becoming a little bit loud.
It sounds like you're in a
So
fun place.
it is tons of fun, but I'd rather be talking to you and your audience. this is more exciting for me, to be honest. But once those property rights are conveyed to that special vehicle, that special purpose vehicle, that legal structure, an NFT is minted that represents the ownership of that. So that way that there is still a physical and digital tie and a way for that RW, that real world asset, to be brought on chain. So once that has occurred, that NFT, whomever owns that NFT, is the owner of the legal structure, and that legal structure is what holds the actual property rights, the actual house, if you will. So to
Gotcha.
answer your question, the scenario, say if you wanted to transfer ownership of your property over to your sister or something, it'd be as simple as just literally sending somebody, airdropping an NFT to somebody. Simple as that. That way, like transfer of ownership literally is done almost instantly. Simple as sending somebody, a little bit of crypto, wallet to wallet. That's
Gotcha.
that's
Wallet
that's
to
the whole,
wallet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then to answer,
That's revolutionary.
oh
That's
yeah, and
revolutionary. Yeah.
it's where and that's where the industry is going. And but to answer your question, so right now we're still kind of in this like inflection point of traditional and Web3. So if somebody buys and sells and goes through the process with us, and they have their transaction and title on chain, and then the next person that chooses to sell it then buy it, right? And they don't utilize Proppy, or the systems yet have not been fully migrated to blockchain infrastructure at the government level, right? It breaks the chain of title on chain, but there's nothing else that really needs to be done. It's just what'll happen is when the next time that title comes back on chain, so to speak, the NFT information will be updated, if that makes sense. So it's just kind of like I said, it's what we're at this inflection point, like we saw up in New Jersey, like Bergen County, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. They had a company called Balcony had partnered with the Avalanche to record. I think it was like 400,000 of those deeds on chain. So we're seeing progress happen to where at county level these titles are coming on chain. So in the event that somebody decides to sell their property, the title would still be on chain. The record would still be on chain regardless. So I think very hopeful, but I really think in the next maybe 18 months, maybe a couple of years, I think majority
Hmm.
of county records should be digitized. And now, mind you, there's
You said
oh, there's
18
there's
months?
over. I would say conservatively 18 months to maybe a couple of years, because I mean
Okay.
there's about 3,000 plus counties, so that's about 3,000 different records, like databases, if you
Hmm.
will, that would need to be digitized. But there are at state level, though, they're looking at how to um, basically look into newer initiatives to streamline the process of record keeping. Because if for example, if like when Katrina hit, all
Hmm.
of those records, all of those records were completely wiped out. So there are some places in the
Mm.
U.S. where you when you're doing title search, for example, you can't look back beyond 10 years or even things like that, so it gets a little problematic. So it's going to be a lot of hard work, a lot of people rolling up their sleeves, so to speak, to implement these systems. But I mean,
Hmm.
look how far we've come with cloud infrastructure. So
Hmm.
it's basically like the same kind of like the same concept. We're just having to move now to blockchain infrastructure, right? So I mean, it's a process, but behind the scenes, governments have been getting prepared. Um, I will say a lot of the like IT departments, a lot of the heads of IT, CTOs, these kinds of people that are involved at governmental levels, they're very well aware. they're
Mhm.
begging the cities and states to say, hey, like allocate a budget for this, please. Like let's
Mhm.
get this done because that's the only thing that's the only restriction. That's the only kind of like bottleneck barrier I would say right now because it's costly to
Yeah.
upgrade infrastructure, you know.
Mhm.
So it's it's
And
it's it's coming. It won't be that I don't want to say it won't be that cumbersome, but when they finally say, okay, this is what's going to happen, and it's kind of like an edict, a mandate at a
mhm.
federal level, it
Mhm.
should be it should be a fairly quick process to kind of get knocked out.
Mhm. And you know what comes to mind is that, with all the regulation that we just saw happen with, stable coins and, the Genius and the Clarity Act, it sounds like an RWA initiative act regulation. It sounds like what's going to be on the horizon next. And so with that, what markets or regions are seeing the fastest adoption of, you all's work and what Property is doing? And do you all provide support for people in other countries to be able to mint their properties on you
Ooh,
guys' platforms?
love the questions. So we're licensed for title and escrow in Florida, Arizona, Colorado, and we're working on several other states right now. And part of one of the announcements that I'll give a little sneak peek. So um, we are doing a roll up strategy, and we've actually just been able to raise a substantial amount to be able to start going out and doing acquisition of other title companies to get them powered by
Hmm.
property nationwide.
Hmm.
Um, so,
That's
so I kind of
awesome.
preface, so I kind of preface all that to say, and to answer your question, that Florida, I would say, has probably been because that's where our CEO, that's where he lives, and also
Okay.
in Miami, for example, um, Mayor Suarez there has been very instrumental in kind of making Miami, the next Silicon Valley, if you will, So Florida and also their very crypto friendly regulation really has helped. Also, I mean, a lot of folks out of Florida have helped kind of shape what was the Genius Act and also the Clarity Acts as well.
Hmm.
So to answer your question, I think Florida really has been kind of the hub. I'm seeing some really cool stuff out of Texas as well, which is really what we're trying to get there. So Florida, Texas, and then also to kind of answer your question, and also New Jersey. I mean, New Jersey, just like I said, we just did that pilot program with Balcony through Avalanche to re-record all of those 400,000 deeds on chain. So
Hmm.
to answer kind of like the second part of what you're asking, so we do offer support to a level if it makes sense business wise, sure. Um, but it's not a key focus for us right now. We've been really laser focused on implementing some of these new things, like I was saying earlier, with AI into the product, and
Okay.
kind of and getting ready to scale in an explosive way. Um, Getting to unicorn status is the goal. So,
Okay. Awesome. Well, you guys are definitely trailblazing, and are for sure pioneers in the space. So in thinking about the future, and as we wrap up for our last 30 minutes here, feel free, folks, to continue to drop your questions and thoughts in the chat. Wanted to also hear from you. I know Poppy is doing a lot around education. We several folks from our team attended an awesome session that you guys gave a few months back around for folks in the real estate game, around what blockchain on the real estate looks like. And so thinking about the future, right? What type of skill sets, what type of opportunities might business owners as well as others in the real estate development construction industries, what do we need to be thinking about? What does the future look like for these industries, and what have you seen out there are the best ways to kind of upskill and get into the space?
oof, that's a heck of a question right there. So I think really I think the most people that will be able to, I don't say flourish, but will immediately take advantage of the technology are those that are in the world of creative financing. Because when you're able to implement um, smart contracts into real estate and really bring real estate on chain, you're able to create a whole new set of financial instruments. You're able to create access to liquidity and enhance that liquidity in ways that weren't available before, by democratizing access to real estate investments to retail markets. So, where now your retail investor that is US based or even somebody that's non-accredited are able to actually participate. They're able to, for $100, be able to invest into real estate. So it's all about um, democratization of access to investment into real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
why also I think a lot of people are starting to see, and part of what has been asked a lot of Proppy as well is the conversation of fractionalization of
Okay.
ownership starts to come up quite a bit. And
Mhm.
to kind of address that, because I know that that's probably going to wind up being a question from the next part of the segment, is it's
Yeah.
not we specifically, it's not something that we do, but if it once again, if it's something that makes business sense, it's something that we're more than happy to explore, because
Mm-hmm.
the primary objective of what we do is to bring the property rights on chain,
Mm-hmm.
and everything we do is kind of to that value in that core. So, but to kind of bring it back full circle and really kind of hit home on your principal question with, like, say, real estate developers or things of that nature. I mean, they're going to be able to gain access to a global audience like in a way they didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
Say if like a real estate developer is trying to raise capital or funds for a
Mm-hmm.
project, right? I mean, they can be creative, and that's where that on the commercial side, on the developer side, fractionalization, that makes sense, because
Okay.
it allows you to tap into a secondary market, to where, because I mean, your typical investor that's going into a real estate development project is going to be accredited. They're going to be anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000 to $1 million. And your typical retail person, they just don't have it. It's like, okay, I've got $100. What can I do? And the answer to that right now is not too much. But in the world of tokenized real estate, everything. So you,
Mm-hmm.
even in the world of
Mm-hmm.
like these like rental models, like the Airbnbs and VBROs, they always kind of joke around that it's such a shame, because timeshares really kind of missed a big opportunity, because I think blockchain technology is a great use case for people to do timeshares, because that's where fractionalization really kind of can come into play for those people, to where you programmatically are able to
Yeah.
have an NFT to where you're able to fractionalize, like, oh, like you have January to March and this is your
Mm-hmm.
NFT, so yeah, so it's
That's interesting.
if
I never thought
yeah.
about it that way before with timeshares. That's an interesting paradigm there. Factionalizing timeshares. Let's see about that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, so
Very
and
interesting.
it's also, for example, too, like somebody that does wholesaling, right? So for your
Mm-hmm.
audience that's listening
Mm-hmm.
out there, somebody that does like wholesalers basically are contract flippers. They're basically going to John Doe that's selling his property for $180,000, and he's basically saying, well, hey, look, I'll give you $160,000, but let's go under contract for 30 days. And then he goes out and finds somebody that's willing to buy that from him for
Mm-hmm.
100, or like maybe $20,000 more, and then he sells the rights to that contract to that person. So in the world of tokenized real estate, that contract can also be tokenized, and then you could be selling tokenized wholesale purchase agreements on a
Mm,
secondary market. So yeah, there's all sorts
mhm.
of or you could be selling just in general, like a developer, for example, right? Like doing pre-construction.
Yep.
Um, Somebody say for example that you have a set of buyers that you go under purchase agreement with. They're not going to be moving into that property for
Mhm.
maybe 4 years, maybe 5 years in some cases, sometimes maybe 36 months. So
Mhm.
pre-construction, if you look at the rate of how many people fall out of those purchase agreements, so if you
Mhm.
tokenize the actual purchase agreement, somebody falls out of it, you can very easily just flip that purchase agreement to a secondary market, like OpenSea, Rarible, or just whatever, and somebody could also,
Ah,
buy it. So I mean, there's also
yeah.
just the possibilities start to become really endless because it's whatever you can creatively think of, and that's why I kind of stated those folks that understand and utilize creative financing, those are the folks
Mhm.
that are gonna be like, all right, yeah, this is the technology. I can't tell you how many people that like wholesalers and creative finance folks, they reach out to me. They're like, hey, can Proppy do this? Can Proppy do that? Can I do this in your marketplace?
Mhm. Mhm.
You not yet, not yet. It's not our
Mhm.
focus, but the appetite and demand is definitely there
Yeah.
for those kinds of solutions.
Yeah, and it definitely provides multiple opportunities for revenue generation, income coming in multiple different ways that did not exist or that would not exist without the blockchain, and the opportunities provided there, being able to tokenize things on the blockchain. So I definitely see from what you just described the opportunities for greater capitalization, greater liquidity, as you know, those words we've been hearing a lot in the industry. So definitely see that for sure. It speaks to a question that came up in the chat. Do you have a sense of how the whales in the industry or how the whales in this field are engaging with this?
Yeah, I mean when you say the wells, like when we look at when we apply that term to the world of real estate, we start talking about hedge funds, right? We start talking about the Black Rocks. We start talking about folks that have millions, billions, if not trillions of dollars of assets under management. Okay, so what they're doing personally is they're doing two things. They're buying up massive amounts of Bitcoin and ETH. And then secondarily, what they're starting to do is to be able to collateralize those assets under management to buy more Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of not a whole lot of people are a fan of him, so I like to use him too much as an example. But Grant Cardone, for example, he's been doing kind of just that. Is he will go in and have like do like a capital raise for a real estate fund, like a REIT or something like that, right? And then what he'll do is he'll kind of do kind of like a real estate's version of the Michael Saylor playbook, where the monies that he raises for that REIT or for like that real estate fund, he'll go and buy. He'll take the debt to buy Bitcoin, and then do dividend payouts based in Bitcoin, which is pretty wild and exciting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
that's one of the things that the wells are starting to do, and then they're also starting to, you've got like Onda and Maple and Securitize, so it's really the tokenization and securitization of these assets. Because like I said before, we're able to really start creating new financial instruments and really, I mean, if you look what happened in the housing crisis back, in '08, part of the reason that happened was you had all these junk mortgages that were bundled up for
Mm-hmm.
good, and people started defaulting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll start to maybe see kind of baskets of tokenized debt, baskets of tokenized, um, tokenized and then collateralized properties, and BlackRock and these large hedge funds that have all this AUM are starting to do that, and they're utilizing Securitize, they're utilizing other players in the market just for simply for that, and that's, I mean, talking about billions and then trillions of dollars that are starting to come on chain. So I mean, we're still insanely early to the conversation, even though it seems like the conversation's been going on for the past 8 or so years. It's still
Mm-hmm.
very exciting.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing that we're really wanting to know, right? As we wrap up in our last 10 minutes or so. So, you talked about the opportunities for, some folks who are in the industry to, play a role if you're a developer or in the commercial space. You just talked about the whales and the large industries that are involved. Oh, before I get to my last question, which is where I was going, we got two more questions that just popped up in the chat.
Okay.
Are there ETFs focused on real estate tokenization and minting, or are they within traditional REITs? And then the next question is, what platform advancements do you see Poppy making to onboard its users as we move forward in the RWA blockchain space?
I
So
absolutely
first,
love both these questions. So
okay.
yeah, so for those of your listeners here right now, I would challenge you all to go follow our X page for kind of these kind of updates as well, and kind of these talking points. So right now, RWA ETFs are starting to kind of take shape and become a thing, right? To where we're able to, tokenize different kinds of real estate, different kinds of RWAs, and stick them into baskets, and other investors can, invest in this kind of different funds, right? So it's just it's like I said, like if you can ask, is it happening? If it's possible, yes, it's possible, and it's already starting to happen. You know, through institutional means. I've said this for many years that it's going to take institution is what's going to onboard retail. 100%. The key lacking component that we've had has been regulation over the past several years. And now that we've seen these three big bills that have been passed and will get, and I think have been signed into law. I mean, we're going to see, I mean, even like Robinhood, for example, just and also Kraken, just in the past couple of weeks have announced and unveiled tokenized stocks for
Mhm,
European clients.
mhm.
So yeah, so I mean, it's everything is moving on chain. Um,
Yeah.
so the second part of that question, could you did I answer it? I'm sorry, I'm doing my best
Yeah, no,
to
yes,
try to
the
keep
first
track.
question, definitely. No, it's all good. I know I threw a lot at you. First question, yes, thank you for that. The second question was around what platform advancements do you see Proppy making to onboard
Okay.
users as we move forward
Yes.
in the RWA blockchain space?
Yes. So for example, right, the whole idea behind what we do and why we do it is to automate the real estate transaction, right? To where it's just a click of a button. And when you look at a real estate transaction as a whole, you can compartmentalize every aspect of the title and escrow process, right? So the advancements, that we're really starting to, not starting to make, but that we've been making, and this kind of goes into some of the stuff that we'll be announcing over the next couple of weeks through press release, is utilizing AI agents to achieve a lot of what we're talking about within a real estate transaction. And I mean, that's as far as I can really make with that statement. But the advancements in the platform are going to be more and more AI agent focused. There's some really
Mhm.
exciting things that we're going to be announcing, but like I said, I can't really say more than that, or else I'll get beat over the head.
No, I totally understand. No, we're definitely going to stay tuned with what you guys are doing to make sure that we're plugged in, and also providing our community with access and opportunities to learn more about onboarding into Poppy's ecosystem. So no, thank you for the exclusives that you have given us, Elias. Thank you,
Oh yeah, I'm
and
trying.
what
I'm
to look
trying my
forward to.
best.
No, it's all good. So the question that I was leading to was to just kind of wrap up our time and to getting your final thoughts on the future frontier for this space. What do you see? And I love that Poppy's mission is really around access, right? And so for those, so as I was circling back, you spoke about those in the real estate development space, in the construction space, the opportunities that exist there. You talked about, what the wells and the large hedge funds are doing. But how can, folks around the world really take the opportunity and leveraging this moment to generate wealth for ourselves and our families and our communities? What does that look like within the future? And how is property providing that journey for folks,
Yeah.
or the opportunity,
So,
I should say.
love,
Yeah.
love, love, love the question. So, the first thing that I will tell anybody, education. Go learn and become an expert. And then once you have that aha moment and you're like, man, I need to go proselytize, just don't. Because I've been in this industry since the inception. And, since March 2010 is when my entry point into the world of crypto was, when I first bought Bitcoin. Okay. And ever
Okay.
since then, I've been trying to scream it from the rooftops as loud as I could, and we can see where we are 16 years later with the price of Bitcoin and the advancements of where we're at. And people still, they don't, it's not that they don't care, it's just it goes over their head. So my biggest advice is go get educated, go learn, get embedded with your local communities, blockchain associations, with the local clubs. um, Start just creating posts, to just start being a figure of authority, and then people will seek you out in that. And then by doing so and educating yourself and learning, you start seeing all of this massive opportunity out there, that's just money sitting on the table for you to access in different and creative ways. So, but it all comes back down to what I just said: education. So go and follow the industry leaders, the innovators, the movers and shakers, and kind of see what they're saying and doing, and just find ways to keep your finger on the pulse. For example, tuning into podcasts like these, following Proppy's page, asking questions. There's never, I absolutely love it when people reach out to me and just ask me questions, because the people that are in this space, this community right now, they're passionate about it because of the social impact is
Mm-hmm.
far reaching globally, right? And it's something that the use case is, it's the end game. It's democratization of access to everything. The core mission of what blockchain technology is, and in Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, it is a sovereign solution, sovereignty, self sovereignty, right? Being
Mm-hmm.
able to have, so once, like, for example, like when your property rights are on chain, government can't come and seize that. Those are your property rights, right? And for those of you that are listening and want to learn more a little bit about kind of that statement, of property rights or human rights, go read Hernando de Soto's book, The Mystery of Capital. It's an amazing book, and it'll put a lot of things in perspective. But at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's education and being curious and seeking out answers and seeking others out that are also just as passionate and curious as you are to learn.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elias. Yes, very, very much so agree. Which is what we're all about here with us. We'll definitely post the link to the book again. Could you say the name of the book again? The author?
His name's Hernando de Soto, and it's called The
Okay,
Mystery of Capital.
I got you. All right, we're definitely gonna circle that within our community. Yes. Awesome, awesome. Just checking the chat here to see if there are any lasting questions. Thank you, Elias. This was such rich conversation. Thank you, Try, for tuning in with us. We're definitely in alignment with understanding that this is the time to educate, advance, upskill our knowledge. This is why we're all here today. So, again, thanks, everyone. I believe that's all the questions we have, and we're at our time. So, Elias, enjoy your
Right.
journeys and your travels. Thank you again so much for being with us. Thank you,
No, I,
Tribe.
I, I'm absolutely, I'm very appreciative and very humbled that you include me in on these conversations. So for your listeners, If you want to learn more, come seek me out and message me, and I'm always more than happy to spend some time and have a conversation answering any questions that may not have been answered here, or that you may have thought of after the fact. Thank you all.
For sure. For sure. Thank you so much, Elias. Thanks, everyone. Y'all be well. Peace.